Am I the jerk for asking my fiance to pay a bride price? Throwaway for obvious reasons. I'm not asking your opinion on bride prices. I am asking if I was wrong for doing what I did. My fiance, 32 male, is a white European man. I'm 31 female, a black African woman. We've been dating for 7 years. I came to his country to study and have lived and worked here since. Ever since we started dating, he took such an interest in my culture, asked me to teach him my language, culture, and we've even been to visit a few times. He asked me to marry him last year, and I accepted. We are, or were, planning our wedding. I mentioned we'd need to account for my family back home. We could have the traditional wedding in my home country and the white wedding in his, since we don't want to ask anyone to fly and get visas, etc. The issue came when I mentioned a bride price needing to be paid, something he scoffed at. To call it a bride price is misleading, because there is so much more to it than the money that changes hands. It's our time-honored tradition that blends two families into one, and it's always something I wanted to do when I got married. I mentioned he knew of marriage customs in my country, and that they include a bride price. We both work in law and human rights type of fields, so he assumed I would be against a bride price. I told him I'm against it being a forced and money-making thing, but I'm asking that he does it because I choose it, and I want to honor my parents and culture. He refused, saying it was backwards and extortionate, and it would be like he bought me. I assured him that wasn't the case. My parents would charge a tokenistic or symbolic amount, nothing crazy, just to symbolize us getting together. I said if my parents were to sell me, he couldn't afford me. This set him off in a rage because I somehow insulted him by saying that, when what I meant is my parents aren't looking to make money off me. But this is something my people have done for millennia, and I don't want to break from tradition. I have said I don't know if I'm willing to go ahead with marrying him if he isn't willing to make the trip to my country and talk to my parents about the lobola process. He says I'm forcing and manipulating him. I am not. He knew from day one who I was and where I came from. This is what my people do, and I feel for him to label it backwards is Eurocentric, because he is viewing it from his lens, despite me having explained what it's actually about. TLDR. My white boyfriend won't pay to honor my culture in our marriage, and I don't know if I want to marry him if he's unwilling. Am I the jerk? There's a lot of misconception and ignorance in the comments. I shall try to clarify. Boyfriend and I didn't talk about bride price in our specific context. However, he knew from real life and fictional context the marriage customs of my people. I assumed that he, knowing what he knows, would have known the steps necessary for marrying me. Perhaps I was wrong to assume that. This lobola is no affront to him or his upbringing outside of what I view to be a judgment of moral superiority. A lot of your comments are ignorant with thinly veiled racial undertones. I knew coming to a platform with predominantly white users, this was a risk. I ask that you read what you're saying before you post, and ask yourself if you're coming from a position of superiority colored by your beliefs of Africa and Africans. Step outside your worldview. Frankly, my parents are wealthy. They neither need nor plan to get rich off my marriage. They have a demonstrated pattern of behavior that assures me they are responsible and fair when it comes to this kind of thing. The money is minuscule, literally like 5%. part of the traditional marriage, but it is a part of it. The other 95% is not monetary and is a beautiful ceremony that blends two families together. My concern is that if he's willing to shun the 95% for the sake of the 5%, what does that future with this man look like? Culturally, if we do not go through these customs, I am not married and my marriage won't be recognized. The ceremony is a cultural must-have. The wedding ceremony a nice-to-have. My family mean a lot, and my parents have done a lot for me. I disrespect my parents over something that I not only think is a non-issue, but something I agree with. You seem to miss the part where I am willingly consenting to this. Final edit, logging off. Lobola is something I am unable and unwilling to scrap. I'll talk to him. We shall decide on the future of this relationship. If it's something he is unwilling to partake in, I guess we'll have our answer. Thanks to those of you who were useful in your advice and respectful in your disagreements. Bye. You're the jerk. I think your comment about him not being able to afford you as a sale makes you the jerk. It might be true, but you shouldn't say it. The other issue is really about expectations and compatibility. So you aren't a jerk for asking, and he isn't a jerk for telling you no. It seems kinda sexist to me, but to each their own. Some traditions aren't good and should be discontinued. I'm sorry, but you're the jerk. He assumed, and rightly so, that your work in human rights would have educated you about how barbaric some traditions are. That you embrace this tradition makes you a different person to him. Just because something is a tradition, it doesn't make it right. Archaic traditions that evoke slavery or human trafficking needs to stop. Period. Edit. Just read your further explanation of Lobola. Talk about burying the lead. So it's about honor and not on par with the kidnapping tradition that was in another post on this sub. But then you ruined it by saying you couldn't afford me, taking it back to buying. In all honesty, if not barbaric, the tradition is still misogynistic. It's putting males and females in a separate place, based solely on gender. Not really something someone involved in human rights should be a fan of. I'm going to admit it, I don't know anything about African traditions. But it's clear to me that this particular tradition is important to OP. But it's not for the groom-to-be. In fact, the groom is entirely opposed to it. It's probably right that they talk to each other. She doesn't look to it as a bad thing, while he certainly does. I hope they resolve their differences and come to a happy ending. If not, well, there's more fish in the sea. That's it for today's video. If you liked it, please don't hesitate to like and subscribe. See you soon. Bye.